Beautiful. Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. This time out, we are joined by Dick Boak, Director of Museums, Archives, and Special Projects for Martin Guitars.
That's right.
Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you being here.
Great store. Great place.
Thank you very much. You've been here before?
Yeah.
A few times, right?
Yeah. It's fantastic. I think it's probably the best musical building in the world. I can't imagine anything better than this.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting place. Lots of stuff going on here. So you were here, speaking of lots of stuff going on, you were here doing a workshop last night.
Yeah, with my great friend Craig Thatcher, a fantastic guitar player, and Larry Barnwell, our regional sales rep, handles Sweetwater. Right.
Always fun to watch those. You guys go through some of the history, talk about some of the guitars. There's a lot of playing, and they're fun workshops.
There's so many elements of Martin, the historical aspects, the technical aspects about the guitar, how the guitar changed over the years, what each model is good for, what genre it lends itself to.
Right.
So it's fun to do it. Not to mention the tens of thousands of artists that play Martin guitars.
Absolutely. Right.
It's fun to do that.
Right. So, Director of Museums, Archives, and Special Projects, what does that mean exactly?
Good question. I'm still working that out. But I started at Martin 38 years ago. I've had a dozen different jobs. As I approach my older years, and I'm getting a little older, I'm finishing up all of the artist signature model projects that I had going. Initiated, I think, close to 150 different projects.
Wow.
And Eric Clapton, Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, on and on and on. And that was really fun and fascinating.
Right.
I'm very involved with the archives. Martin has an incredible family legacy, and the Martin family saved everything. I think there's close to 800,000 documents, letters. Wow. We have letters from Mother Mabel Carter and Hank Williams and Gene Autry and everything.
Wow, incredible.
And we have letters going back to the 1800s, so it's really important to get those scanned and into acid-free. And part of this also is furnishing these materials or making them accessible for authors and for special events. So we're doing an exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum of Art starting in January of 2014.
Nice.
It's called The Invention of the American Guitar, the instruments of C.F. Martin. Because Martin was really responsible for the guitar as we know it today. And so that's really significant, and we've gathered a number of instruments. There's a book coming out about it. And that's just an example. I'm working on 3 different book projects now.
Wow.
And every time there's a project, it extends the archives, more things, more digital images, and it's great. I love it.
Oh, it's got to be fun.
Yeah.
You have, at the Martin headquarters, you have an incredible museum there with instruments that date back to the very earliest days. How do you come across those instruments, or how have you collected those over the years?
Well, usually late at night when people are sleeping, we go into their... What's your address? We keep our eyes open for instruments that will fill specific holes in our collection, of which there aren't very many anymore. I think we have close to 1,250 instruments in our collection.
Amazing.
And when we started out, we simply had the cases that needed to be addressed chronologically to tell the story of the evolution of the guitar. And we saw specific things that we would like to acquire. And business is good, and we're in the business of selling guitars, not buying them back, especially buying them back at a premium. But when we see something that we really want, we wanted a D-45, one from the pre-war era, and we wanted a really great one. They're all great, but we wanted one in pretty good condition. And we finally found one for $275,000.
Wow.
It would have sold originally for about $300. So that's better than the stock market.
Yeah.
Remember that. We can't guarantee that.
Right.
But so that's an example of an acquisition that really is very special. The fact that we own the instrument now and that it's on display in our museum probably has elevated its price to
Even
double
more.
that.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
And we use those guitars as benchmarks to keep us honest and to make sure that we're always striving for the tone that Martin is known for. That's, pearl and different woods, and the real thing, it's all about the tone.
Right. And you have incredible craftsmen and luthiers at the factory that you've been there, you mentioned 38 years. I was out and visited the factory and talked to some of the people that are there, and they've all been there for, the average tenure has to be very long. What is it about Martin that attracts those craftsmen and keeps them there for so long?
Well, it's a fun place to work. It's a wonderful project. I go into places where they're making plumbing fixtures or something and see these people, they work all day and they go home and there's no connection between what they love, American culture, music, art. There's no connection. But at Martin, there's tremendous connection. We work hard on these instruments, take great pride, kind of a Germanic precision pride in the instruments. And we come home and turn the television set on, and there's John Mayer or something playing his model, and there's a tremendous pride in that. It's a wonderful project. It's a wonderful product, and they're works of art by themselves. And then you put them in the hands of a musician, and they become a significant tool for art and expression. And it's just a fantastic thing to be involved with.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think. The notion that people stay for 30 or 40 or 45 years is actually problematic because they gain so many skills, and then when they do retire, it's always a challenge to start somebody next to them and have that person gain all those skills. So we can't risk losing that. When you're building products with a computer assembly or something, you don't have to worry about that. But when you're dealing with human hands, it's a different thing.
Right. And some of the people there that I talked to were second generation. They're
second, third, fourth, fifth.
Yeah,
sixth.
exactly.
Well, Martin family is into the seventh generation. Claire is 9 years old. C.F. Martin, Claire Frances Martin.
Right.
We're being nice to her. Right. But she. A lot of the people, there's a woman in the neck fitting department whose grandfather worked at Martin for 45 years, and there's uncles and aunts and sisters and brothers, and that part of what makes it special.
Right. And I saw some of those people in one of the departments were restoring and rebuilding some of the really early guitars that had come back from the 1850s. I think there was one there.
Actually, the instrument you saw, we had a quality control office. Our Sycamore Street building was built in 1964. They built a little quality control office, and they decided recently, in the last couple of years, to take it down. And they went up there. It was half an inch of sawdust up there, and there was 7 or 8 boxes. And they said, "Well, what are these?" And they brought them down. They were all pre-1867 Martin guitars.
Wow!
And so one by one, we've worked on those and got them ready for museum display. But we think they were loaned to an exhibition back in the 1950s or something. And when they came back, they just didn't know what to do with them and stuck them above the closet. It was a tremendous find.
Yeah,
some of those instruments are worth a lot.
Oh yeah,
emotionally a lot and monetarily.
Sure. You mentioned pre-war era. There's always a lot of talk about pre-war era, and I know that you've brought a lot of the attributes of those instruments forward into the modern era instruments as well. What is it about the pre-war era instruments that set them apart?
Well, the combination of an evolutionary design with flawless craftsmanship, precision to detail, and tone. Materials as well. The Brazilian rosewood that was used during the pre-war, the Adirondack spruce, everything came together. Design, materials, craftsmanship, into what I call kind of the Stradivari of guitars. The instruments just excelled in every way. And with the difficulty in acquiring some of these materials today, we can still get some Adirondack spruce. We still have some of the Brazilian rosewood, though it's regulated. It's more of a challenge, but we use the instruments as a benchmark, and we try to make instruments that are as good or better, and we've had a lot of success doing that. It's a challenge. hide glue, for example, which dries very hard and adds a extra dimension to tone. We're making some guitars using that process, which was a pre-war process. So we try to be inspired by our own product.
Right, right. But you're not just looking backward, because Martin is also looking forward. You're doing things with sustainable woods, or using some new materials and things. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, we have Sting to thank for the sustainable wood notion. Our project with him, of course, he cares about the rainforests as we do, and so we did a certified wood model with Sting, and it kind of started an entire series of guitars. So we have actually two series. One which is 100% FSC certified woods. Some of the woods are difficult to get certified, though, and we might be able to only do 55 or 65 or 75% certified. And in that case, we can't call it certified. We have a sustainable wood series that covers those almost 100% certified. And I think it's really good to educate the consumers, the guitarists, about this. Guitarists as a group are really a pretty environmentally savvy group of people, but until it comes to buying their guitar, and then they want, well, I want the Brazilian rosewood. and so it's important to show them that you can use any number of alternative woods and still produce a fantastic tonality that is associated with our instruments. So that's an educational process, and I think as we move forward, we're going to see more and more of those models need to be made as the traditional woods disappear.
So you've also incorporated electronics into the instruments. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with that?
Well, you know, in the last 25 years, electronics have gone through a lot of evolution and improved. The sensors that go into the saddle, under the saddle of the pickup, have improved. The electronics themselves. And of course, the goal is to produce a sound that is as close as possible to the pure acoustic sound. Nowadays, almost 40% of the guitars that we're making are electronic in some way, able to be plugged in, and so we're pretty committed to it. And we've worked for a long time with Fishman. We think the acknowledged leader of the sound reinforcement industry. To produce pickups that are as least invasive as they can be, and that produce the finest tone.
Right.
And that's what we were talking about here with the Retro series. Really ingenious onboard tuner and a very high-end microphonic images of the actual guitars from the Martin Museum.
Right, which they sound incredibly natural.
Yeah.
When you plug them in. Right. So you probably in your career have encountered more special Martin guitars from the very earliest to the most modern of anybody probably. And my question for you would be, if you could only pick one, is there one that really stands out for you?
Well, for me, it's not so much about fanciness. I mean, I love the art of pearl inlay. I have a favorite guitar in the museum, which is the 1929 Ditson Dreadnought that was made. It's very plain. You pick it up, it weighs nothing. It's a big guitar, but it's light as a feather. I call it a potato chip. and you strum a chord, and it's just like crystalline. It just has a crystalline sound. And I love that guitar. Like I said, nothing fancy about it.
Right.
I think the best of what can be said about Martin is the tone. You know, you can put butterflies and things all over a guitar. Doesn't mean anything. It's in the end, it's a wooden box with a neck and some wire attached. And what it's all about is tone.
Right.
You know, Mike Longworth was the historian at Martin Guitar for many decades, and he said, we put the tone in before we build the box around it.
Nice. You know? That's great. That's great. Dick, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Always such a pleasure to have you visit us here and educate us about Martins and play for us.
Tone.
There you go. It sounds incredible. I'm Mitch Gallagher. Thanks for joining me for Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear.